so damned cold. If only there was no wind, he said. The man in the dog fur hat did not seem to feel as cold as Youngdal did. It was true that he was heavily dressed with a fur hat and a field jacket, but he also looked unusually healthy and robust. He spoke to Youngdal, showing some warmth for the first time. "Did you eat anything for breakfast?" "No." Youngdal smiled shamefacedly. "I could barely make my escape in the dark." "I haven't eaten yet myself," said the other man, "but we'll have to wait at least until we get to Chansem. I should have left earlier this morning. I'm now getting to the age when one doesn't like moving in winter." "I didn't introduce myself. My name is No Youngdal," said Youngdal. "I am Zheng." The other man gave him his family name. "I know how to work machinery. Once I get a job, I'll have nothing to worry about him," said Youngdal, to get Zheng know that he had no intention of sucking around. "I know," said Zheng. "Didn't you work with the rock drill? As for me, I can do carpentry, welding, and cobbling." "Wow! Having all those skills, you must feel very secure," Youngdal said admiringly. "I've been doing them for more than 10 years," said Zheng. "Where did you learn them?" asked Youngdal. "There's a very nice place where they teach you all those skills," answered the other man. "I wish I could go there," said Youngdal naively. But Zheng said with a bitter smile, shaking his head, "It's easy to go there, but I'm not sure you'd really want to go. It is a very big place. Only too big." "Too big?" Youngdal stopped in the middle of his sentence and looked at Zheng's face. Zheng was walking steadily in silence, with his face lowered a bit. The uphill road became a downhill road. Below them, they could see the road winding along a stream and distant fields. The winter fields lay bleak with hardly a farmer's hut as far as the eye could see. The dry rushes swayed in tangled confusion, and the wind whirled up sands on the other side of the stream. "The village of Chansem lies over that mountain there," said Zhang. "We had better cut across the stream if we want to make better time." "Do you think it is frozen solid enough?" asked Youngdal. The stream was, in fact, frozen very solid. The ice was rough and not slippery, the water having frozen over several times after repeated freezing and melting. The wind picked up loose bits of ice and slapped the two men hard in the face. "Perhaps we should have waited for the bus by the bridge," gasped Youngdal, out of breath from walking too fast. "The buses are never on time," said Zhang. "Besides, we must watch where our money goes. Even when you haven't eaten, it feels good and secure to have money on you." "You're right," agreed Youngdal. "At Wolchul, we can take a southbound train," said Zhang. "Are you going south or what?" "I had better wait and see." Youngdal hesitated. "Which way is Sampo?" "South, that is, as far south as you can go," said Zhang, vaguely pointing his chin to the south. "How big a place is that? Are there many people living there?" asked Youngdal. 10 houses or so," explained Zhang. "It's a pretty island, Sampo is. The soil is good, lots of land. Fishing is good too. You can catch as much fish as you want." "If it's as good as you say, why not pitch our tents there and call it home?" said Youngdal, skating over the ice on the road. "Why not, indeed," said Zhang, "but not you." "Why not?" Youngdal looked up. "Because you're not a native." The two men crossed the frozen stream. Clouds were gathering in the sky. "It's going to snow," observed Zhang. "The going will get tougher." He looked up at the sky, turning gray with misgivings. Standing on the mountain ridge, they could see the houses in the village below. Above the houses, the smoke was rising, barely visible and spreading sideways. There were a church steeple and the open space of a school playground. On the farther side of the village ran an iron fence and barbed wire enclosing a tract of land. It appeared to be a military base to which the village was attached like an insignificant appendage. They walked into the village. It had just about everything: a pastry shop, a theater, a coffee house, a pool room, a general store, a saloon, and a marketplace. But it was still too early in the morning, and the streets were deserted. They entered the drinking house with a sign, Seoul Restaurant, which one could find any small town around these days. A fat woman was stirring cabbage soup in the iron pot. A man who looked like the owner and two local young men were talking excitedly. "I hadn't suspected anything," said one of them. "She must have taken her clothes piece by piece and had stashed them in some secret place. She must have sneaked away early in the morning. She said that she was having an all-nighter with Sergeant Yoon," another said. "I thought she was sleeping late in the back room because of that. She must have sneaked away right after Sergeant Yoon went back to the base early in the morning. The money she owed me for her clothes, her medicine, her meals," said the owner. "It's not just the small sum that she owes me. It's no less than 50,000 won." When Young-dal and Jung took seats at a table, they stopped talking and tried to size them up. "Two boiled rice and soup, please," called out Jung, taking off his hat. "Do you mind waiting a bit?" asked the fat woman who was stirring the soup, looking up and smiling apologetically. "That's all right, as long as you make it good and tasty," answered Jung. The fat woman put down the ladle and let out a big sigh. "That bitch!" she spat out. Young-dal and Jung looked up from where they were sitting, close to the stove, almost hugging it. "She ran away, the barmaid," said the fat woman as an explanation. "That's why the fire got started late. The soup ingredients weren't ready either." She turned toward the men who were talking excitedly and shouted, "What are you doing, yakety-yak? Go and catch her. She couldn't have gone far. Drag her here by the hair." "That's not necessary," said the master of the house timidly. "She will have to catch the train at Wol-chul. All we need to do is wait at the station." "Then get your bike out and go," said the fat woman. "The weather is really beastly," mumbled the husband. "What are you talking about? That bitch, Baekwa means 50,000 won. "It's Baekwa," butted in one of the young men, "that brought business to this Seoul restaurant. She made this the thriving business that it is. GIs would sell their boots to come here just for her sake." "Oh, is that so?" said the fat woman scornfully. "Nonsense. A pretty face she may have, but what is she but a common whore? It's me who brings in whatever business there is. Lately she has been making excuses not to work, saying she was sick. She wouldn't fetch water, wouldn't cook, wouldn't even receive customers. 6 months at Chansem and she's all washed out. I was thinking of getting a replacement as soon as I would get my money back." "What are you doing anyway? Go and wait for her at the station." All right. The owner of the restaurant winced at the sharp tone of his wife's voice and said to the man of the village, "Hurry up. I'll buy you drinks when you come back," urged the wife. All 3 men went out. "Wouldn't it be nice," joked Jung, "if we had Baekwa pour wine for us?" "It's going to be a big problem with so many young men visiting here in the evening," grumbled the fat woman. "You ought to have 3 or 4 girls here," said Jung. "With too many girls around, it could be more trouble for me," said the fat woman. "One good-looking girl is enough. Besides, I can borrow girls anytime I need them. Do you need the girls? Shall I get them for you?" "What are you talking about?" said Jung jokingly. "Making a man play with a girl from early morning. Do you want to see me carried out as a corpse in the evening? Is that what you want? Here is your boiled rice and soup. The fat woman brought the soup to the table. It wasn't too bad, though the cabbages could have been softer. Where were you last winter? Said Zhang to Yongdao, who was hastily devouring the soup. When? Yongdao asked back, putting down his spoon. As the other man repeated his question, he started laughing and said, A hell of a good time it was. Yes, sir, at Daejeon. There was this girl I met, Okja. I had an easy job and good pay too. So, you shacked up? Zhang encouraged him. She was a good girl, continued Yongdao. You could trust her. We almost had a baby. When I lost my job last spring, she had to go to Seoul to become a maid. We promised to each other that we'd come together as soon as we could make some money. But what is a promise to people like us? When I wake up at night, I think about her and can't get back to sleep. Zhang calmly looked at Yongdao, who almost looked as if he were about to break down. Out of sight, out of mind, you know. You'll forget, said Zhang, looking out the window. The fat woman who had been out in the backyard came back in, complaining. What a day! It's going to snow. The sky is lowering. The wind is blowing ever so hard. I'm afraid my blockhead of a husband will turn back halfway there. How far is it to Walchul? Asked Zhang, forestalling the fat woman's volley of words, which were likely to become very tiresome. About 60 li. Are there any buses that go there? Zhang continued his query. Usually there are 2 buses in the afternoon, answered the woman. They should be able to catch her and come back by the last bus. By the way, where are you headed? As far as the coast, answered Yongdao. That's pretty far. Are you taking the big road? As Zhang nodded to the woman's question, she pulled up her chair closer to the 2 men and continued. That's pretty far. Are you taking the big road? As Zhang nodded to the woman's question, she pulled up her chair closer to the 2 men and continued. Would you do me a favor? If you come across this girl on the road, she's about 20 years old, long hair, double-lidded on one eye. Throw some questions to see if she's Baekwa, and if she is, bring her back to me. I will give you 10,000 won in cash. Zhang merely smiled, but Yongdao was excited and said confidently, Sure, we'll do that, but you must really give us the money you promised now. You can depend on me, the woman assured him. Also, you could stay here overnight. Good, said Yongdao. He rose with Zhang and walked out of the restaurant. The woman was shouting towards their back. Long hair, double-lidded on one eye, don't forget. The sun was hiding behind the low-cast clouds. The whole world appeared as if seen through yellow-tinted glasses. The wind formed a column of whirling dust on the main street of the village. Zhang and Yongdao lowered their heads into their collars and walked up the main street. Yongdao stopped to buy cigarettes. The wind coming across the fields increased its fury.